YouTube also.
Sorry, I'm going to ask you, because this is tomorrow. Did you guys do such
Okay, just everybody give me a minute here. I wrote to Sachi Sindhu Prabhu and he wrote me back and he said, Hare Krishna, it's not the best time for me, but I'll try to arrange it.
So he's on it. He's good. Sorry, I'm going to ask you, because this is tomorrow. Did you guys do such
Okay, just everybody give me a minute here. I wrote to Sachi Sindhu Prabhu.
You'll do it again or
Hi Krishna, nice to see everybody. Gaurajaganya Gana Gocha Goloruharam Gauranga Guru Chama Gopyara Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Janchi Jileka Kola Kahe Premananda Hemana Gauranga Hridaya Dariya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Namare Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hayamara Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya, Prema-bhakti-candrika Parama Pramata, Tasmai Jaganmangala Mangalaya, Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Madhavirapi Gopala Sri Kriyat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhayapi Rishi Yusta Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunatha Ptami Brajabala Vipahimam Vanchakalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadha, Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Krishna Nama Amrita Bharshi Vaktra Chandra Prabhad Vasta Tamo Barayam Gauranga Devanacharaya Namo Namah Shila Naratomaya. Again and again I offer my obeisances unto Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He is indeed a true follower of Lord Gauranga Dev. The nectarian shower of the holy name of Krishna radiating from the moon of his mouth destroys the darkness of ignorance. So we're still on the fifth song of Prema-bhakti-candrika. We're on the fifth song of Prema-bhakti-candrika in the eighth stanza. In our last session, we spoke some things about service to the gopis and how that's the life of the Vaishnavas. And we read a number of things from Srila Thakur Bhaktivinoda and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and our Srila Prabhupada, where that's our goal. So let's continue with the words of Narottam Das Thakur. This is our song for the day. Yuga Vacharana Sevi Nirantara E Bhavi Anuragi Taki Vasudai Sadane Bhavi Bhajaha Siddha-dehe Pabataha Raga Patira E Sevupai. He speaks about the Raga Pata E Sevupai. This is the process or the means on the path of Raga Nama-bhajana, that we want to have firm attachment to serve the Yugal Charan, the lotus feet, the divine couple, Nirantara E Bhave. This is what our goal, constant goal that we want to have. This is what Raga Nama-bhajana means. Anuraga Taki Be Siddhai. And that I should be doing that. I'm thinking about them with this bhav and with anurag. Constantly thinking about them in this way. In sadhana bhavi jaha, whatever type of sadhana we do, siddha-dehe pabataha, will receive our siddha-deha accordingly. Ragapatari Sevupai. This is the path of Raga Nama-bhajana. So today, and I think maybe in our next session, and maybe the session after that even, I want to speak about a subject which has been controversial for a lot of the followers of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta for many years. What is our Ragapat, our path of Raga Nama-bhajana? And some Vaishnavas, they criticize the followers of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and they say that you don't practice Siddha-deha or Siddha-pranali. Siddha-pranali is the process by which we practice to get our Siddha-deha, our eternal spiritual body. So I'd like to speak something about that, about what Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta said about that, and how our path, what is our path of Siddha-pranali? First of all, it's not a wrong thing to want to be fixed in our Swarup city. Srila Prabhupada spoke about this in a lecture in Bombay in 1973. He said, we must be fixed in our own Swarup city. Swarup city means to be engaged in the service of the Lord. That is real mukti. As we were speaking about in some of our last sessions, we should not be lazy. It's not that we gave the example of getting on a bus and not knowing where you're going, but I'm on the bus, Prabhu. So we should have some idea where we're going, and we need to have some understanding of what is the process by which we're going to get that. So I'd like to share, first of all, some things with you from Bhaktivinoda Thakur about this. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Harinam Chintamani in the end, in Chaitanya Siksamrita also at the end, Jayadharma at the end, and in Bhajan Rahasya, he speaks something about the process of Siddha-pranali and how he describes in his Svalika Jivani, his autobiography, how he received that from Bipin Bihari Goswami, his guru, And he describes how he was praying to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to send me Guru. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent me Bipin Bihari Goswami. So in Rajan Bhajan Rahasya, in the first chapter, in the 10th verse, Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks something about Siddha-pranali. Adhikara na labhiya, Siddha Deha Bhave. If someone tries to think about their Siddha Deha, but they don't have the adhikar for that, they don't have the proper qualification, then viparya ya buddhi janme shaktira abhave. Then, because they don't have the sufficient power, shaktira abhave, then viparya buddhi janme will happen. They'll get a contrary result. And some Vaishnavas have said that if you sit down and you try to meditate that I'm a manjari, I'm a sati, and you don't have the proper qualification for that, meaning you're not free from material desires and things, then the result will be you'll take birth as a girl in the material world. And you won't be parya buddhi janme, you'll get a contrary result. So we don't want to do something which is just kalpana. Kalpana means some imagination. We're practicing something, and as Bhakti Vidyamar said in one lecture, we're thinking, I'm very advanced, and I'm thinking, I'm cooking for Krishna, I'm doing this service, I'm doing that service, but it's all kalpana. It's all just some speculation. So Bhaktivinoda speaks about this premature sadhana in a number of different places, as does Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. I'd like to cut some weeds to begin with and speak about what we don't accept before we go on to accept and speak about what we do accept. Well, let's read some things from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The first is from Chaitanya Siksamrita. And he's speaking about devotees who are aspiring for prema. My dear devotees who are aspiring for prema, you have, by practicing Vaidhi Bhakti, attained love of God and surpassed the 14 levels of material existence. Above the 14 worlds exists the subtle realm of Haridam, the abode of Lord Shiva. Leave the 4 levels of this existence and proceed higher. Pierce through the 2 levels of Vishuddha Sattva, Brahman, and Vaikuntha in the form of the Viraj, and approach the border of Goloka Vrindavan. In Golok, there are 5 levels of personal experience, Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Coming to the level of Madhuras, take up a spiritual body of a gopi and enter the group of Radha as a follower of Lalita, by the mercy of Rupa Manjari. So this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as we were reading in the last session. This is very clear. This is our goal. And Bhaktivinoda says, raise a sthai bhav, or permanent, sthai means permanent or fixed bhav or mood, to rasa by mixing it with vibhav, anubhav, the treasure of praying to the level of mahabhav, and you will have reached perfection. Attain the highest stage by deciding your present qualification, practicing yukta vairagya, and constantly chanting the holy name. So here, he's giving a little clue too. We attain that highest stage by, first of all, understanding what is my adhikar, what is my qualification. And then not practicing just vairagya, but yukta vairagya, not false renunciation, but renunciation which is connected to Guru and Krishna, and constantly chanting the holy name. I've not supplied many scriptural references in discussions of Madhur Ras because those who are qualified will find all of this in Ujjwal Nilamani and Jaiva Dharma. After understanding the topic of rasa and taking support of the activity, service, and mood suitable to the self, the devotee should enter the meditation on the eightfold pastimes. Okay? So after all these things, after this qualification, after understanding the topic of rasa and realizing the service and mood, then we begin to enter into meditation. Then very easily he'll attain Buster Siddhi, or perfection. By practicing Yukta Vairagya, the devotee can easily remain a Paramahansa for the end of his life. And then he goes on to explain something which is very important for us. People who have strong attraction for gross material pleasure and cannot understand these topics should not read think of or discuss these topics of rasa because they will think that these are all material activities and criticize them. If they do appreciate them at all, they'll become degraded as sahajiyas. So this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's description about Siddha-pranali. And again, in Krishna Samhita in chapter 8, in his commentary on the 150th verse, he speaks again about premature sadhana and this type of thing. He says, bogus gurus who don't consider their disciples' qualification for the path of attachment, and thus instructed many Shakata means the cart demon, Shakata-like people to accept service in the mood of manjaris and sakis, commit offenses by disrespecting confidential subject matters and thus fall down. Those who worship according to such instructions also gradually fall away from spiritual life because they do not attain the symptoms of deep attachment to those topics. Yet they may still be delivered by the association of pure devotees by receiving proper instructions. So this is some warning that if someone without proper qualification tries to artificially speculate on something like this, then it's just kolpan. It's just some imagination. And it doesn't give the proper benefit. Bhaktivinoda Thakur received Siddha-pranali. But Bhaktivinoda, in a number of his writings, which I'd like to explore in this session, at the same time stresses that it's the Hare Krishna mantra which gives us realization of our Siddha Deha, or our spiritual body. So let's look at some of these statements from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The first is from Bhajan Rahasya. In the this is the first section, 10, 9 to 10 verses. Chaya shloke bhajite anartha dure gela tabijana siddhadehe adhikara hoila. Adhikara nalabhiya siddhadehe bhave viparya buddhi janmi saktira bhave. We were just reading this. And now we're reading it with the 9th and 10th verses. So he divided, as we spoke in the same verse 2 in our last session, he divided the Maha Mantra into 2 words in 8 different sections, which indicate different levels of bhajan. And he says that when one gets to the 6th verse, and he compares to the Shikshastika verses, when one comes to the 6th verse of Shikshastika prayers, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur compares to the platform Bhav, then he says, Anartha Durageli, your contaminations have mostly disappeared. And then Siddhadehi Adhikara Hoile. When the contaminations have mostly disappeared, then one has some adhikar, some qualification to worship, understand the Siddhadeha. But and again, if they don't have adhikar, adhikar nalabhiya, then viparya buddhi. They get a contrary result. So this is all something, and we want to stress this, I think, probably in our following session after this or the session after that, that comes from the blessing of Guru. So let's look again at Bhaktivinoda Thakur's statements on this. This is from Bhajan Mahasya also, from the 2nd section, chapter 14, 1 to 2. Shadakori Nama-bhaji sadhu pripapana. So someone who with faith, Shadakori, does Nam-bhajan, they get the blessings of sadhus. Itara viraga nitya suru bhujya. And then they get some vairagya, and they realize bhujya, their nitya surup, their eternal spiritual identity. Ihake bali bhakti yoga anutama. This Bhaktivinoda says this is what's called Ihaboli Bhakti Yoga Anutama, the topmost platform of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is Saiva Siddhi Jati Dhari Krama. And if someone follows the proper krama, the proper sequence, then they can get Saiva Siddhi, they can get all perfection in Bhakti Yoga. It's a shame today that many devotees don't understand this thing, And we should know that Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks this, but this is, I remember, I'll give you some example. I gave a class once in Jagannath Puri in one of our yatras, and afterwards I saw the devotees were having a spirited conversation with someone who just happened to come into our class. I think they heard about it and they came and sat down. And looking at that devotee, I could see right away they didn't have tilak of our line. Our tilak of our line is Gopi Chandan tilak. They had Radhakund tilak, and they had a little little white short lungi. And as a Western devotee, a little bit of a beard that I have today. And he was quarreling with him about Siddha-pranali. And the devotees requested me to speak something with him. And I just asked him, please tell me where, as we were talking earlier, where in Goswami literatures does it say anything about Siddha-pranali? It speaks of, Nalton Das Thakur speaks about understanding our Siddha Deha, but the pranali is this particular Siddha-pranali is a process which was given later by Jnana Goswami, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes that in his Jaiva Dharma. There's an external path, which is that path given by Jnana Goswami of Siddha-pranali. And there's an internal path, which is given by Raghunath Das Goswami, which is a path of Nama-bhajana. And I said to our friend, I said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the founder of this movement. And Mahaprabhu told the devotees, the Mayavadis in Benares, that I'm a murka. My Gurudev told me that I'm just a fool, and I only know one verse. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Keva. Naseva, Naseva, Naseva. So I pointed out to our family, it says Harinama, Harinama. It doesn't say Siddha-pranali, Siddha-pranali, Siddha-pranali Eva Keva. But rather the holy name gives everything. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes this in a number of places. In this session today, I think primarily my goal is just to share with you some statements from Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, wherein they say that the holy name will give you everything. And if we go a little further, maybe we'll discuss a little bit about the power of the holy name from Shastra. And then probably in our next session, I'd like to speak a little something from the Yoga Sutras and from Harinam Chintamani about how what is the process of the holy name. And if we say the holy name gives us our Siddha Deha, gives us that realization, hello, I have friends who've been chanting the holy name for 50 years, and they don't seem very close to understanding the Siddha Deha. So what gives? So we want to discuss a little something about this path or this process from the Yoga Sutras and from Harinam Chintamani and understand it in a little deeper way. So today we're just kind of looking at some statements which just in a general way describe that the Holy Name will give us this. So this is a couple of the statements. First is from Harinam Chintamani. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the first chapter, text 30, says, Ataiva Nama-mata Vaishnava Dharma, that for the Vaishnava, the only Dharma, Ataiva Nama-mata, is the holy name. Name prasatito hai rupa guna karma. And from the holy name, prasatito means the blossom, comes the rupa guna and karma. Rupa means the form, guna means the qualities, and karma means the activities or the pastimes. And this verse has several meanings. One meaning is that by chanting the holy name, you'll realize the form, the qualities, and pastimes of Radha Krishna. Another meaning is, because it's just saying in general, Rup Gun Karma, another meaning is you'll realize your Rup Gun Karma from the holy name. So I find it very significant that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, although he had Siddha-pranali from Bipin Bihari Goswami, he stressed the holy name. Why did he do that? Perhaps, as he spoke above, that he saw that people don't have proper adhikar, proper qualification. So in Saranagati, in his Nam-Mahatmya, the glorification of the holy name, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives this song, Prema-bhakti-candrika 5.8 Adbhuta Rasadadam. With the holy name, it's the kalika, it's the blossoming, the bud of prema. Adbhuta Rasadadam. It's the abode of astonishing ras. Hena bala koraye prakash. And bala, it has this bala, it has this strength that it'll manifest. Ishat Bikashi Puna Dekaya Nija Rupa Guna Chitta Hari Loya Krishna Pasa. When the holy name, Name Prasvatita Hari Rupa Guna Karma, it starts to blossom, Prasvatita, then the holy name reveals Dekaya Nija Rupa Guna. It reveals the name's divine form and qualities. And in that way, Chitta Hari, Hari means to steal here. Chitta means the heart. My heart becomes stolen, Loya Krishna Pasa, and Krishna ties it up and takes it to him. Purna Vikashita Hana. When Purna Vikashita means fully blossomed, when the flower of the holy name becomes fully blossomed, in Braji More Jayalana, it takes me to Braj, Dekaya More Swarup Vilas, and it gives me the revelation, allows me to see what is my eternal spiritual form. More Siddha Deha, it gives me my Siddha Deha, it gives me my spiritual form, Krishna Pasa Raki Giya. It keeps me very close to Krishna, E Dehara Kore Sarvanas, and it destroys this E Dehara, this Deha, this material body that I have. This is the system which Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati stress. Again, some devotees, they protest this system that we have, and they say, no, this is not appropriate. We have to have Siddha-pranali. That Siddha-pranali is a bona fide process. Narottam Das Thakur had that. And other different exalted Vaishnavas in our line have that. We're not against that, but we want to follow the bhajan pranali of our line, because without pleasing Guru, yashya prasada bhagavat prasada yashya prasada nagati topi, we're not going to be able to please Krishna. And we please Guru primarily, Tate Krishna Bhaji Kori Guru Sevan, by doing service to Guru, and that service means doing Krishna bhajan. So this is a path of mercy. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he in his Prabhupada Patravali, there's a series of letters where he speaks about what is the path to attain Ragmarg. And we should understand that even if someone doesn't have faith in Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, I would suggest that still it would benefit them at least to understand what he has to say about this. So let's look at this letter. I've included the Bengali for this letter. In the next one, we'll kind of touch on some of that. Apnada 24 say, he said, I've seen your letter from the 24th. Tarikar Patipaya, so much you get the whole. Apni Brindabani Giya Vaishnava Gana Nikataja Ashtakali Alila Smaranadi Vishai Jnani Yachin. We said that you're discussing, you're talking about this Ashtakali Alila that you heard about from certain Vaishnavas in Vrindavan. He said, Uha Udaraniya, that should be respected. But Sandeha Nai, the way, there's no doubt, Sandeha Nai, there's no doubt that's a good thing. He says, but Kintu means but. Kintu Jay Bhave, E Shakala Vishaya, Nantamai Avashkaya Dharani, Dharana Karahoya. But the process, the way that these things are being considered, it's wrong. It's corrupted. He says that some fortunate individuals are capable of understanding these things after chanting for a long time. That's the identity of the true self. But it can only be known after one is free from mental contaminations. If we're not, just to cut in with a comment, If we're not free from our mental contamination, then again, we'll just have some kopana. As Bhakti Began Maharaj was saying, we'll be chanting with it. I'm so advanced because I'm chanting. I'm thinking about cooking in Radharani's kitchen. Maharaj gave a specific example, and it's just a kopana. And in your next life, then you may take birth in a McDonald's kitchen or something. Hare Krishna, hope not. Maybe a vegetarian kitchen, someplace, because you're just meditating. You had your mundane conception of cooking. This is the path of mercy. And until we're on a very high platform where we have qualification, we're just completely at the mercy of Guru. So it can only be known after one is free from material contaminations with the awakening of the spiritual identity. And this is a teaching of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, that Name Prasvatita, it'll naturally blossom on its own. It's not something that I have to endeavor through some forceful process to try to accomplish. With the awakening of the spiritual identity, one automatically has constant cognition of his spiritual form. Automatically. And those people who say they can teach or reveal this identity, he says they're practicing a kind of deception. Because it can't be done. On the other hand, if a devotee receives some inspiration after sincerely chanting for a long time, then he should go to the Sadguru or advanced devotees and ask for it to be confirmed and purified by them, the spiritual identity. And we heard in our last session, we spoke something about how the devotees had some realization about the Siddha-deha of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and they went to him privately and asked him about it. He just laughed and didn't argue with that. And so then the devotees accepted that as a confirmation. The spiritual identity has 11 aspects. Ekadasa Bhav. So this Ekadasa Bhav, Bhaktisiddhanta says in this letter, there are many cases of unscrupulous gurus who artificially force feed these designations of unqualified practitioners, but we cannot call this the mark of spiritual perfection. This is his perception, his outlook on this Ekadas Bhav. When persons are giving this, it's a common thing at Radhakund that people give these different 11 aspects. What is your name? What is the color of your skin? What kind of dress do you wear? Who is your husband? Where do you live? What kind of service do you do? Who is the sati you serve? There's 11 different things that you meditate upon. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is saying that this is something which should automatically awaken from the holy name. And if we artificially try to force feed these designations on unqualified practitioners, it's wrong. And that's not real spiritual perfection. Those who have achieved the perfection of being fixed in the spiritual identity, Swarup Siddhi, have attained such a realization through internal revelation, and the spiritual master's only involvement in these matters is to help the further advancement of a disciple. So a lot of times devotees have the conception that, I just like, I was once in a room in Singapore with Prabhupada's friend, Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, and a group of his followers. It was a private group in Maharaj's bedroom. And one young devotee was a follower of Maharaj. She came before Maharaj in a very dramatic way. She said, Gurudev, please tell me, what is my Manjari Swarup? Narayan was very gravely, he said, your name is Bhuta Manjari. And she started crying, and that's, oh, Gurudev. But everybody else in the room started laughing, because they understand Bhuta means a ghost. And saying that she didn't have qualification, Maharaj was just making fun of her. So it's not, devotees sometimes have this conception that that Gurudev is going to reveal this to me. But Bhaktisiddhanta here is saying that this is something which awakens in an automatic way. It's by the mercy of Gurudev. And Gurudev indeed might reveal it, might tell the disciple, this is my name, or whatever. My Guru Maharaj, he once privately told one of his godbrother friends, who came to my Guru Maharaj because some of my godbrothers were saying that Guru Maharaj must have some special mantra that he chants. He has some special sadhana. And maybe he's chanting 1 lakh a day or 3 lakhs a day or something. And this friend of our Guru Maharaj, his godbrother, he said, no. And they were insisting. So later he went to Guru Maharaj and he told them what they were saying. And Guru Maharaj told him, they are all fools. And he told him, he said, I've done nothing but chant the Hare Krishna mantra. I just chanted 16 rounds. and I've chanted those 16 rounds following the orders of my Gurudev, and I've done service for my Gurudev. And he said, from those 16 rounds, I realized the swarup of my Guru and my own swarup. That was a private thing that the Guru Maharaj had made. So the Guru may reveal that to us in an external way or maybe in an internal way. It's the Guru who reveals that, but it's not that it's not necessarily a formal thing, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta calls it here, where the unscrupulous Guru artificially force feeds a designation on some unqualified practitioner. Once we had heard some things, speaking again about my Guru Maharaj, that Guru Maharaj knew that Prabhupada's swarup and that he realized his own swarup. And I was very curious to hear him speak about that. But it wasn't something that you could ask him in a normal way. So I was just quiet and I just kept this question in my heart. And a few years went by. And one evening we were chanting japa with Guru Maharaj outside of his hut. It was a little late at night. And it was just 2 or 3, 4 devotees there. And it was a very intimate sangha. And Guru Maharaj then suddenly, he was chanting japa and suddenly began to speak to us about Prabhupada's visit to Bhubaneswar. And we'd heard previously that Guru Maharaj had said that Prabhupada asked him to come into his hut, and Prabhupada gave me everything there and revealed his swarup. And so I wanted to ask about that, but I wanted to ask in a way that wasn't going to make Guru Maharaj angry or it was inappropriate. So I said, well, Guru Maharaj, there's a controversy about this. And some people, they speak about this meeting that you had in the hut in some ways, and some people say some other things. And could you just please tell us and make it clear what actually happened? Right? I thought it was a pretty straightforward way. And Guru Maharaj stopped and he looked at me, he glared at me, and he shook his finger at me. And he said, very tricky, very tricky. He said, I'm not going to tell you. And with that, he got up and walked out and went inside his hut. And the devotees were very annoyed with me because Guru Maharaj stopped chanting japa with us. So on other occasions, he told us that I'm not going to say this. This is something you have to realize. And as I often comment from Krishna's words in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, this is Raja Vidya Raja Guru. This is the topmost knowledge to understand my swarup, the swarup of my Guru. And it's Raja Guhyam, it's the most confidential thing. And Krishna goes on to say that Pratyak Savagamam Dharmam, it's something which has to be practically realized. It's not something that should be speculated. So let's go back to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's letter and the following letter after that. So he's saying that the spiritual master doesn't force feed this. His only involvement in these matters is to help the further advancement of a disciple. As a practitioner progresses towards spiritual perfection, all these things are revealed naturally within the heart that sincerely seeks service. So we're going to speak more about this pranali, or this process later, but this is our foundation of it. We should understand this is the conclusion of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and as we're going to progress, we'll see what the Yoga Sutras and other sources say about this. So Bhaktisiddhanta in a separate letter says a similar thing about the holy name. Jahate Shri Nama Kripa Hoy. That we have to pray constantly to the holy name for mercy. And if someone has some contamination, nartha bhukta vasta krityanahi, then they can't understand. They have no qualification, ashtakaliya smana prabriti. They have no qualification for meditating on the ashtakaliya lila, the eightfold practices of the divine couple. They have no qualification for trying to understand their own Swarup Siddhi, their own Swarup Deha, what is their Siddha Deha, their spiritual body. He says, when we engage in chanting the holy names, we are simultaneously engaged in hearing, and the opportunity for remembering is included in that. One should not engage in astakaliya lila smarana on false premises. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very, very clear about that. He saw the qualification and the lack of qualification that the devotees had. Let's look at another letter where he spoke about these things. This is a big thing, these letters, because these are letters that he wrote to devotees who are in India and understood something about our Gaudiya Vaishnava process and maybe had some connection or contact with some of the Babajis who were insisting that we have to have this Astakaliya Smarna, we have to have Siddha-pranali. So in another letter, he says that Sri Nama Grahana. Grahana means to take or hold. We should take a hold of the holy name. Horite korite anarta apashari to holy Sri Nama rupa gua lila apna hoite spriti horde. He says there's no point in doing something separate and trying to artificially remember the Lord's form, qualities, and pastimes. It's artificial because I don't understand them. I just read some book about them. And as we see in the last chapter, one of the last chapters of the 10th canto, where it speaks about the Vedas personified, when we try to understand something through our panchagyan indriya, our five knowledge acquiring senses, all that we perceive is panchatan matra, some material thing. And so we may have I read in Govinda Lilamrita, this thing. You read some English translation. Even if you read the Sanskrit, you have some understanding of it, but the book will speak to you. The book will give us some goal, the book will give us some understanding, but we can't consider that my perception of what's written and said there is absolute, because I'm perceiving it with the same material senses, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says in one place, the same material senses which also bind me to this material world. And Bhaktisiddhanta goes on, he says, so that we'll understand this Nam, Rup, Guna, Lila of the Lord when those coverings in our heart are removed. And when we chant without offenses, then we'll get all perfections from the holy name. So this is our process. We glorify all the Vaishnavas, all the Babajis, all the Goswamis, all Gaudiya Vaishnavas glorify Haridas Thakur. But what did Haridas Thakur say? Where did Haridas Thakur speak about Siddha-pranali? Rather in Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's a very beautiful verse that he spoke to the Chankazi when there was a complaint about Haridas in his village that he's chanting Hare Krishna with those Hare Krishna devotees, those Hare Krishna people. The guards were sent by the Chankazi and they brought him before the Kazi. And initially he was friendly with Haridas, and he told him, he said, Haridas, look, I know your family, your grandfather, you come from a good family, nice Muslim family, and now they're making these complaints about you. This is not good. Look, I'll make it all go away. Just stop hanging out with these Hare Krishna people. Stop this chanting. And at that time, Haridas Thakur, he said, Kanda Kanda Deha More Jari Jari Pran. That kanda means to cut up. You may cut my body to pieces, my deha, jaya jari pran. But tabu ami vadani chari harinam. Every one of the pieces of my body is keep chanting the Holy Name. So this verse is sometimes cited by Gaudiya Vaishnavas to indicate the Nam Nishta that Haridas Thakur exhibited. And therefore Bhaktivinoda Thakur described him as being the Namacharya. And is widely accepted as the Siddha Mahatma of the Holy Name. So there's no discussion about Haridas Thakur having Siddha-pranali. Rather, Haridas Thakur, he chanted the Holy Name, and that was his only process that he performed. So, the time is 5 o'clock. I can stop here if the devotees have any discussion, any questions or anything. You're here. Hare Krishna. Or I can go on and speak a few things from some shastras about the Holy Name. There's a few comments here. Jai Gaur was asking from Srila Bhakti-siddhanta. Yeah, I can share these very happily. If I forget, let me remind me again. Ujjwala, the rest of your comments, that's what I was thinking too, Prabhu, not just the quotes, but the matter related to this series of Prema-bhakti-candrika. I wonder if that can be shared, the whole matter. Yeah, I'm happy to share whatever things devotees are doing. Okay, so on what we've discussed so far, do devotees have any questions or comments or anything? Raise your hand. See what happens. When you raise your, it didn't do it. And this, can you hear me okay still? I just pulled up my speaker. Okay, my mic rather. So Jai Gaur, you want to share something with us?
Yeah, I have to go soon, unfortunately, so I might have to hear the rest of the class on YouTube later, but I was thinking, you spoke about how we should avoid kalpana, but like, how do we apply the principle of param drishtama nivartate here? Like, in order to give up a lower taste, one must be situated in a higher taste. My understanding is that, like, in order to actually give up the false bodily conception, one has to be situated in the conception of a spiritual body, the conception of.
We have to have some taste. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his wonderful book, Bhakti Tattva Vivek, which is actually, originally wasn't a book, it was originally a series of articles in Sajjana Toshani, which were collected later and printed in a book and was translated by Banu Maharaj. In Bhakti Tattva Vivek, he says that although Rupa Goswami says, Ado Shraddha Tatas, he says that in the beginning, the Shraddha is required. Bhaktivinoda says, actually, and he cites different verses from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu to support its point, that actually Shraddha alone is not sufficient. But there must be some ruchi also. There has to be some taste. And we see this practically. You're staying in the temple in Brooklyn. And if you stay there for a period of time, you'll see new people join the temple, and they'll come and maybe they'll very enthusiastically go to Mangal Artik and chant Hare Krishna in 16 rounds and things. But after some time, they go away. What was the problem? They had some faith. The faith led them to move into the temple, but they didn't have ruchi. And because they didn't have that ruchi, they went away. So as we'll speak more in the next session, or maybe the session after that, about this thing about chanting the holy names and Siddha-pranali, everything is based on our chanting and in our connection to Guru. It's all based on mercy. And therefore, the first canto of the Bhagavatam famously says, Shushu Shoshadadanashya, Vasudeva Kata Ruchi. We have to get this Kata Ruchi. How do we get that? Shamahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirthana Sevana. When we serve Gurudev, when we serve the Vaishnavas, then we get some Kata Ruchi, we get some taste. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, we may read from a commentary of his later on the subject. He says that Sometimes a disciple may even give up chanting for service to Guru. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, I feel, clarified that. He said that while we do service, we should be constantly chanting. Someone may be cooking in the kitchen, and there was this devotee in Vrindavan. What's his name?
Oh,
I met him once.
Prabhupada's disciple.
Right, Prabhupada's disciple. Maybe some other devotees you call him. He passed away a few years ago.
Bhubanesh Prabhu?
Who?
Prabhu.
Bhubaneswar Prabhu?
Not Bhubaneswar, no.
Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu.
Vibhu Chaitanya, exactly,
Yes,
Vibhu
that's the
Chaitanya.
one.
So Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu, he was cooking like all the offerings. I heard it took like 4 or 5 devotees to replace him after he left his body. He was after he had to quit. He was cooking all day long and constantly, and he had literally no time. I mean, he was sleeping, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours a night, and aside from that, he didn't have time to chant. And he approached Srila Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, what should I do? And Prabhupada said, you just chant constantly. And so that's what he was doing. And he wasn't chanting on the beads. He wasn't chanting any rounds. Now, we should note that Hari Charan Prabhu, you shouldn't think that you can do that. Or someone else said that, oh, I'll just chant Hare Krishna constantly and I won't chant on my beads. We have this connection. We have this commitment with Guru to do that. But the most important thing is service. And we may not be able to always chant japa when we're lying on our deathbed. Who's it? Kadamba Kadamba Maharaj recently was lamenting. He was telling Jayadvaita Maharaj, I'm so bad, I'm not able to chant my japa. And Jayadvaita Maharaj said, don't worry about that right now. Just, he said, no, I have to set some example. And so he was very, very determined. And I don't know up until what point, but practically, at least very close to the end, or maybe right up to the end, he was regularly chanting his japa to show us that principle. So yeah, we have to have some taste, param jisva nivartate, but that taste comes when tate Krishna bhaji kori guru sevan, when we do our bhajan for the pleasure of Gurudev. Then we'll get some ruchi from that. But that ruchi, it's a fact that has to be there. But that's why we have to render some service, and that service is something personal. If we don't have that personal service and we're just chanting the holy names, then it may become something mechanical, or it may become kalpana, where we're just speculating something on our own. Is that helpful, Jaguar?
Yes, Prabhu, can I ask kind of a follow-up to that?
Sure.
So I was thinking in the same line, like just as you were speaking, I was making some notes that, like, if the means of purification from lust is to hear and absorbed in Radha Krishna's pastimes, like this Vikriti verse says, and it seems like in one sense contradictory that one has to come to a certain level of freedom from anarthas before meditating on such things, because such things are the means of purification from the disease of the heart. And I was also thinking that this verse you're speaking on, as well, like the Siddhika Sadhaka Rupena verse, seems to indicate to me the importance of meditating on these things while we're chanting. I was thinking about this verse from Bhagavad Gita, also yam yam bhapi smaram bhavam. I was wondering if you could.
Well, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta first stresses that it should not be artificial. We should think about Radha Krishna while we're chanting, but it's not an artificial thing. If it's artificial, then it becomes kalpana. It's just our imagination.
My confusion is where that line is, though. Like when does it become artificial? Is that you're scrunching your eyes like, oh, I'm going to think about, this is what I'm doing for Krishna right now, or something like that, or is like, it seems like there's a
Bhaktisiddhanta was
gradient.
about that. I think on our line, he says that first of all, we should know such things exist. And as far as the Vikrititam Vijavadu Biridam Chavishno verse, it stresses that Shradan Vito, that we hear with faith. We hear from a proper source with faith. And by hearing that, again, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, it'll help us to understand that such a thing exists. It'll help us to understand what bus stop we want to get off at, what train stop we want to get off at, what is our goal, where we want to go to. And it's not that we have to artificially try to meditate upon that, but by chanting itself, Bhaktivinoda says, Pratname prasatito hai rupaguna karma, it will naturally manifest itself. And we still want to hear. It doesn't mean that these statements from Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinoda don't mean that we should cut out sections of the Bhagavatam, or that we should not distribute Krishna book on the street, or we should take a razor blade and cut out the chapters on the Ras Leela before we distribute the book to people. We should distribute Krishna book, and we should distribute nectar of instruction to people. And people need to understand such a thing exists, and it gives them some inspiration to go in that direction. But the point that Bhaktivinoda is that the internal process, which is given by Raghunath Das Goswami, as compared to the external process. The external process, the Bahiranga Pat, was given by Dhyan Chandra Goswami. And that's something where we forcibly try to concentrate the mind. We forcibly try to think of, I'm cooking for Radharani. I'm assisting Radharani in the cooking. I'm doing this thing or that thing by some force. The internal path of Raghunath Das Goswami is that we simply depend on the holy name. And as we'll discuss in another session coming up, we'll look over some of the same points we've made in previous sessions about how chanting is our connection to our Gurudev. And that Tate Krishna Bhaji Kori Guru Sevan, by chanting as service to Gurudev, the Name Prasutito Hai Rupa Guna Karma, that thing will arise automatically. I personally have a lot of faith in this. And it's interesting to me, I see this discussion becomes an issue sometimes, to be really frank, because I think sometimes devotees don't have full faith in the holy name, or they don't have full faith in Srila Prabhupada or Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And because they're a little weak in their faith, they hear something else and they think, oh, I should run after this other thing. The problem is I'm not doing this. Well, I have friends. I have one friend who's been living for over 50 years at Radhakund. And he's your godbrother, actually, Jaguar. He's a disciple of Jayapataka Maharaj and keeps the Gurudev's picture and keeps Prabhupada's deity in his room. And he does parikrama sometimes 2 times, sometimes 3 times a day around Govardhan. 2 or 3 times around. I mean, we do 1 time, we think we're ready to die. He goes around 2 or 3 times. He chants like maybe 3 lakhs a day. I mean, he's very, very serious. And he knows the Babajis and people. And he tells me, one time he commented to me, he said that your average ISKCON Bhakta knows more Shastra than the average Babajis at Radhakund. Because they've heard Bhagavad Gita, they've heard Isopanishad, they've heard these things, whereas the Babajis at Radhakund, they're great souls. They're coming to take shelter, but they haven't really been trained. That doesn't mean all the Vaishnavas. There's some very learned pundits at Radhakund also. But Prabhupada gave us everything, and we should have faith in that, but we need to understand properly why am I not getting the result? Why don't I see the result in other people? How does the name manifest and give us our swarup? And that's something I'd like to speak more about in some upcoming sessions. Is that helpful?
That's helpful. Can I say one more thing real quick?
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
I'm trying to take too much time, but
These are great
So-
comments.
that's one thing I've been thinking about a lot in your kathas lately is like exactly how the name manifests everything. And one thing that I've understood, like from some answers that you've given, is that like the desire, like there's that verse, Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoibe Kuti. When will I have the desire to understand the writings of Rupa and Raghunath? So my understanding, based on some things you've spoken, is that from the holy name comes even the desire to try to understand those things. And so it's like sometimes you can be like if you don't really understand, maybe you think is just, I think I'm getting more insight of exactly how the holy name manifests, and then in connection with that, or I guess a little bit different, but in connection with what you were just speaking, it seems like there's nothing wrong. It's not kalpana necessarily just, to hear, books of our Goswamis, like Vilap Kusumanjali, or what's that other one, Sankalpa Kalpadruma, and hear the services that they're rendering and think, oh, how wonderful it is that they're rendering those services. I would like to also serve in that way, and think about that during your chanting. That there's no.
Let me give an example. For a medical student, it's important that they read all the books. Otherwise, how are they going to understand their medical practice? But just because you've read all the books doesn't mean you're qualified to do a surgery.
Yeah.
And you may say, I've read the books, but it's not the qualification. So there's a difference between reading these books and understanding, as we've been saying, such a thing exists. Srila Prabhupada wanted everyone to get Krishna book. He wanted nectar of instruction distributed on the street in public, to the public, with so many high things about Radhakund and Siddha and different things. But there's a difference between reading that and understanding something about it and trying to practice smarana. And when we don't have the adhikar for that smarana, then it becomes kalpana.
But we should desire to be a doctor, right?
What's that?
We should desire to be a doctor, right?
Yes, right. And if you want to be a doctor, you better read the books. And if we want to be on this line, as you were just quoting from Narottam Das Thakur, we should have a desire to read the books of Rupa Raghunath. It's an important thing to understand what things are there. But if I proudly think, oh, I've read the book, and based on my intellectual assimilation of the information of that book, now I'm realized, that's kalpana. I'm mistaking some intellectual perception of something for spiritual reality. Is that clear?
Yes.
Fakir Mahaprabhu said some beautiful things once to Mother Srimati Krishna Kun. I don't even, I want to hear this. He was speaking with her, and he said that the whole he was just a non-bhakta like anything. Although Fakir Mahaprabhu also had Siddha-pranali from his particular guru. He always stressed the holy name. And once someone asked him, well, I was there. Someone, Mataji, can I have Siddha-pranali? And he became very grave. And he told her, he said, if you do that, he said, there's nothing wrong with it. Some Vaishnavas do that. He said, but if you take that, then it's an aparad to your guru. Because you've already taken initiation in a particular line. You've already received the bhajan pranali that we have in our line of Bhakti Vinod and Bhakti Siddhanta. You should have thought about this kind of thing before. And now if you take some other bhajan pranali, that in effect means you don't have faith in the bhajan you're given by your guru. And so anyway, Fakir Mahaprabhu was stressing the holy name, and he said even the Bhakti Lata Bij, what is the Bhakti Lata Bij? He said the Bhakti Lata Bij is the holy name. When we hear the holy name chanted by Guru, and as we'll discuss, I'd like to go on in a further session, our Siddha-pranali mantra, according to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, is Trinadapi Sunichena. Now that may sound kind of cute and kind of gimmicky, but there's some deep truth to that. And I'd also like to explore how that understanding of that behavior of Tanadapi Sunichena affects our realization. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chaikor. Let's see here. Gorni Tai Prabhu, it's getting late where you're at. He's asking if we could speak something about the Swanama Priya verse. Maybe you thought about this verse, and let's just read over the verse. Evam Brata Swapriya Narma Kirtya Jatana Ragaduta Chitta Uchai. By chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord, one comes to the stage of love of Godhead. Then the devotees fix in his vows, an eternal servant of the Lord. And he gradually becomes very much attached to a particular name and form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he says, and that's the translation, and does in his love, in his position as an eternal servant of the Lord, does that mean the devotee knows his swarup on this level? Is it a general kind of being eternal servant? Ultimately, it means that we understand our swarup. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is a verse which is also given, it's from the Bhagavatam, but it's also given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mahaprabhu spoke this to Prakashananda Saraswati and the Mayavadi sannyasis in Benares. And he told them, he said, I only know one verse, and he quoted Harinama, and he quoted this verse. So this can also be said that this is the only verse that I know. And Mahaprabhu, he said that he told this to his guru. He said, I'm chanting this holy name and I'm becoming a madman. What kind of mantra did you give me? So this verse describes that just by taking shelter of the holy name, we'll get love of God and we'll understand our position, because Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam, the holy name gives everything. And I've had discussions, I looked over some of the books, the literatures of some of our Vaishnava friends at Radhakund in different places. And so far, I have not seen even one, not even one clear statement from the six Goswamis where they speak about Siddha-pranali. Not even one. Rather, our Goswamis, headed by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, in this section you're quoting here, stresses Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam, that the holy name gives everything. That's the system that we have. But there's some Vaishnavas who do some little different things. Some Vaishnavas, they write the name of the Lord on a paper. Some Vaishnavas, they distribute prasadam. But the holy name should be connected with everything. There's different types of Vaishnavas. I don't mind. We're not trying to speak against someone who has Siddha-pranali. We're not trying to say they're wrong. But a problem does exist, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was saying, that as long as devotees, if someone's not qualified, if the guru hasn't had some proper realization, then it's artificial, and he may try to artificially force feed these designations on unqualified practitioners. That's a problem. Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about that. It's a problem if someone's not on a realized level and they try to give this. And I feel very clear as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who are consummate preachers, they saw the adhikar of the people of this age, and they saw this is a perfect thing to speak about. And Siddha-pranali is there for some particular people, but it's generally a very rare thing. And this particular path of Raghunath Das Goswami, the internal path of chanting the holy name, will give everything. But if someone tries to tries to artificially make a shortcut, I'm going to meditate and go Govinda Lilamrita, this thing in a forceful, artificial kind of way, then, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in Bhajan Rahasya Viparya, they'll get some contrary result, Viparya buddhi. They'll get the wrong result because they were speculating like that. Gaunitai Prabhu, is that helpful for you?
In one part, yes. Another part is that how this Hare Krishna mantra, which given by our Guru Maharaj, and repeatedly given from Chaitanya Charitamrita and other sources, how this Hare Krishna mantra becomes Swapriya Nama.
How does it Swapriya Nama? Well, two ways. Initially, because Tate Krishna Bhaji Kori Guru Du Sevan. I'm doing it to please my Gurudev. A small child tries to behave in a way to please their father, not because they understand the behavior properly, but they're doing it because they want to please their father. So we may not realize the glories of the holy name. We may not have nam ruchi, but we have some desire to please Gurudev. And then secondly, by chanting the holy name as a service to Gurudev, and Jagadananda Pandit says that sadhu sangha Krishna name matra chai, these two things are required. Not just one thing, not just the holy name, but I have to have sadhu, I have to have guru, sadhu, and the holy name. Then I'll get everything. And someone who chants in that way, then they get some nam-ruchi. They get some taste, and that initial taste may just be like the child who is cleaning the grass, mowing the lawn or something. He doesn't understand how it's going to make the grass grow faster. Or let's say he's doing some gardening, he's pulling out weeds. He doesn't understand really very much about gardening. All that he understands is my father will like this. And he gets some pleasure by doing that. So that's a kind of ruchi which comes in the beginning. But later on, there's ruchi in the holy name itself. But that's only realized by us when we avoid the 10 offenses. Is that helpful, Prabhuji? And we chant, as we'll hear in a later session too, when we chant in a mood of humility, that ruchi comes. Okay.
How you find the proper association for this kind of deep chanting?
Well, you can put an advertisement in the Mayapur Times. They have a online community there. You can put, I'm looking for someone like this. Good luck. I think if you do that, that'll be the embodiment of Viparya Buddhi Chami. You'll get the contrary result. You'll get a big headache. So if we want some internal association, we have to make an internal appeal. And that means we have to cry and pray to Guru and Krishna. Hey Dina Bando Karunaika Sindo Kuru Prasadam Moyimanda Mudhe Lakshapa Radhe Bahupapa Gadhe Tapada Padmestu Matishta Krishna. That we pray to Gurudev, as we'll hear later on. This is Trinata Pisa Nichena, is our Siddha-pranali mantra. When we pray to Gurudev in that mood, Hey Dina Bando Karunaika Sindo, Gurudev, you're the ocean of mercy, you're the friend of the fallen, my munda mudhe, I'm a foolish person. Lakshapa radhe bahupapa gadhe, I've done unlimited offenses. You please help me. By your mercy, give me remembrance of your lotus feet and remembrance of Krishna. Tapada padme stumatish to Krishna. Tapada padme, may remember your lotus feet, and mati Krishna, may remember Krishna. This is what happens when we approach Gurudev in that mood of humility. But humility, what does humility mean? We'll speak more about this later. Humility means, as Prabhupada says in different places, we don't concoct. We don't make something up. We don't concoct something, but we just accept what Gurudev has given us. And if we practice that, then Guru becomes very pleased. Oh, see, he's doing what I told him. And then that person will get some mercy. Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Anybody else with any comments or reflections or anything? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and stop here. Leela Purushottam Prabhu, why don't you come over here close so they can hear you? Maybe even I'll plug in this mic. It's better and you can kind of talk into the mic.
Hare Krishna. I was just thinking about, there is my,
It's right here. Or maybe, yeah, just there.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I have some maybe too bold. What?
Can you speak up a little?
Okay. Maybe it will sound too revolutionary. I'm a little hesitant to express it, but anyway, we got so far. Because we always speak about this external and like esoteric, exoteric part by Raghunath Das Goswami and Dhyan Chandra Goswami. And I was like thinking, where's really the confusion? Where's really the the mistake in interpreting the meaning of those two sources? And what comes to my mind is that maybe the mistake might be that we take the Gaur Govinda Archan Smaran Padati as the guidance for the Smaranam. But what if we would interpret it as Archan Smaran, meaning it's rather the Padati for the Archana, and not for the Anga of Bhakti called Smaranam, which is, if we consider the Archana Padatis and instructions on Manasa Puja, you know, like as a part of the process of Archana, as the part of the Archana Anga. So in that sense, and then still, what would remain much more valid would be the necessity of the esoteric part of the holy name, bringing the revelations and inner realizations on the part of what we've got from Raghunath Das Goswami in Manashiksha. So that's my thought, like, why are we so sure to interpret that Gaur Govinda Archan Smaran Padati is the like a guidebook, like a Padati for the Smaranam? On the level of discussion, like what anga of bhakti we are engaged in, because if we would accept that it's the padati for the archana, like we get the instructions for manasa puja, for meditating about worshiping before we physically start to do the puja, then it would, in a way, to me at least, it would harmonize the big deal of the discussion.
That sounds like a pretty good understanding. First of all, we have Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam. And it goes in that sequence too. The first thing is that we hear, and then we chant, and then we begin to remember. And that remembrance, that Smaranam, is natural. And Archana, part of Archana is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. We also do Smarana as part of our Archana. Otherwise, our mind is in so many crazy places and we can't do properly. I think that you're speaking about a conflict. Generally, the conflict comes, again, when people don't really have such strong faith. Like I've seen, there's a number of persons, a lot of whom, honestly, were in ISKCON before, or Gaudiya Math, and they really, in my humble perspective, and some of them I've known, I didn't see them really go very deep into Guru Seva or into Nama-bhajana, and they got burned out usually by management stuff. And they left, and then they took up some Siddha-pranali or something. And it's usually those people who are the ones who want to come and fight about it. It's not the senior sadhus and the gurus and the mahants who are fighting about that, because they respect different Vaishnavas, practice different things. At Radhakund, there are many Vaishnavas who don't have Siddha-pranali, who just chant the holy name. And there's in the villages in West Bengal and Orissa, there's many such Vaishnavas who don't have any initiation. They just take shelter of the holy name. So I think the conflict comes sometimes from neophytes who perhaps really are not, don't have so much strong faith in the bhajan pranali they've gotten from their guru, and they want to try to stress it. But you see, that stress the particular line they have. But you see in mature Vaishnavas, there's different persons who have different practices, and some stress the holy name more, some stress this particular type of archana more, and it's not a problem.
What brought me to thinking like that is that the nature of the book of the Gaur Govinda Archan Smaran Parati is like you get the instructions like now you meditate on this, now you like remember that mantra, this mantra, and you get like instructions, but that's not the guidelines for Smaranam actually. If we take the what is that? 284 Srinmatam Shradaya Nityam. And Vishwanath in his Sarata Darshini, he comments that the Smaranam, you don't do endeavor for Smaranam. It's just natural result of your Shravan Kirtan. It just comes automatically as a result of your Shravan Kirtan. So in that sense, you can't really get the padati, like instructions on Smaranam in that sense, beside being it a part of a different anga. And in that, so that's why it came to me that it would be harmonized if we would interpret it as a guidance for the archan in the form of smaran, doing by manas, doing by like meditation, but still part of archan, not really the.
I like the description Bhaktivinoda gives in Jaiva Dharma. Let's look back at that, and where he says that this is the external path. And there's some people who I've seen it. Some people don't really have faith in the holy name.
But then the question is, can Smarana be at all external? In what way Smarana?
Well, external in the sense that can be something artificial. As you're citing this verse from the Bhagavatam and Vishwanath's commentary, real Smarana is something which comes naturally, automatically. It's not something that we have to try to force feed. We have to try to push. But some people, as Kanupriya Goswami, Fakir Mahaprabhu's Diksha Guru, comments in one book, he says that just like most people, when they drink milk, they don't think about how important grass is.
Yeah.
We just take grass for granted. And so in the same way, things that are very important, like air or water or grass for milk, they're important things, but they're things that are so common, we don't assign much importance to them. And so Kanupriya Goswami was similarly commenting that in the same way, sometimes people think that the holy name, yeah, that's okay. And everybody does that. But now this Smarana thing, this thing is a really important thing. And some people have faith in that. And so then they go there. And they're Vaishnavas. We respect them too.
Or they dare to claim that how can you expect the holy name to be effective without Smarana?
Yeah,
another form of the same thing.
That's something which I really get upset about. That's Nama-bhajana.
That's offense like anything.
Yeah, it's a fact. Okay. Let's see here. Vinay Prabhu is commenting, if passive hearing of Ras Leela Katha is helping me keep my mind quiet enough to chant, is it worth practicing despite the several warnings of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada? Are there more valuable practices to keep the mind quiet enough to chant japa sincerely? Different Vaishnavas have different practices to help beat down the mind. I saw something very nice which has struck me. I've been meditating on the last few days from Sachinandan Maharaj last year when we were at that retreat with him. We were staying in a guest house with him in 2 different rooms, and his servant would turn off the internet every night before Maharaj would take rest, because Maharaj was very sensitive, and he said that he could feel the vibrations or something of it. And my experience is that and even psychiatrists and people can tell you, if you want to have a peaceful mind, turn off your phone, turn off your computer, turn off the internet an hour or so before you take rest. And if you want to chant japa, leave it off before you start chanting. And those things, those activities by themselves, of course, are not going to necessarily make our mind quiet, but they're turning the volume down of the disturbances. And if we read, as Prabhupada encouraged devotees to read for an hour a day, then that also helps quiet the mind, and it puts our mind in a particular space where this kind of smarana will naturally arise. If we don't have, if you don't program a hard drive, if you don't put some software on the hard drive, you're not going to be able to use it for anything. So in the same way, we have to program our mind. We read Krishna book. We should hear every day about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. We should hear these topics. And then these things will naturally come up. And there are different practices to keep the mind quiet. I shared some time back some prayers that I like to recite very much by this Aniruddha Das Adhikari, where he offers prayers to the Vaishnavas and to the different gurus to help keep his mind quiet and to give him some namruchi. And he comments that if someone offers these prayers every day, they'll develop namruchi and they'll get mercy of the Vaishnavas. We should understand that the mercy of the Vaishnavas and the mercy of the holy name are intimately connected, and we can't have one without the other. I hope that's helpful. Jai Gaura's got some comment here. How do we understand Jaiva Dharma, where Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is in the line of Raghunath Das Goswami, is giving his internal process, speaks about Jan Chandra Goswami and Gopal Guru Goswami's teachings? I think we just addressed that what Bhaktivinoda says is that that's a Bahiranga Pata, that's the external path for some people who want those kind of toys. I've seen so many devotees, they don't directly say it, but indirectly they're kind of thinking, well, yeah, the holy name's nice, but I need something else. And therefore, and I've seen over the years so many things. I have to also do some deity worship. I also have to have a lot of shalagrams. I also have to recite Nrsimha Kavacha every day. I have to try to practice Asakaliya Smarana in an artificial kind of way. But the holy name will give everything. But some people don't really have faith in that. That's okay. So Bhaktivinoda says, therefore, Jan Chandra Goswami gave this Gorgavana Smaranarchana Padati for people who thought, no, I need to have some other mantras, but I want something which is rasik. I want something which is in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and I want to hear about Rupa Manjari and the Sakhis and Manjaris. And so that book is all about that. I hope that answers that. Ujjala Rashiga comments, in that case, since Archana Padati is after spontaneous smarana, even that padati is far beyond kalpana. Yeah, well, Archana is a very specific thing. As Gorkeshavu commented recently, he said that there's no hard and fast rules for chanting the holy name, but there are hard and fast rules for doing Archana. As Fakir Mahaprabhu once told us, you can be on your deathbed passing stool in your clothes and urine, and you can chant the holy name will come to you. But you're not qualified to do Archana in that circumstance, because the Archana, we have to be physically and spiritually purified. So there's certain rules about Archana. We have to have second initiation. That's the first of them. And then we have to follow in the order of Guru. Gwani Prabhu comments, it looks like someone who doesn't have full faith in the holy name after a long time hearing and practicing, it's the 10th offense, yes, against the holy name. Or are there some other way to understand that? It's the 10th offense also. It's the 8th offense of the holy name, which is described there, that Dharma Brata Tyaga Hutari Sava Subha Kriya Samamapi Pramadaha. That I think that some Subha karma or this thing or that thing is equal to the holy name. And I may think that in a subtle way, or I may think that in a gross way. We should just take complete shelter of the holy name, and the holy name will give me everything. We should have firm faith in that. Siddha Hari Prabhu, you have your hand up. Would you like to share something?
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Whoops, let me again.
Okay, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhu, thank you for a wonderful class and for sharing also some wonderful advice from your personal practice regarding how to invite the holy name, especially in the morning japa practice. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing a bit of your faith in the holy name. It's very inspiring to hear that.
I wish I had faith in the holy name, I have to say, but But I've heard from my Gurudev, I've heard from Fakir, I've heard from people who really have faith in the holy name. And I have some faith in them. And I'm just trying to repeat, and I'm trying to get faith myself. Go ahead.
A question I have was regarding this the external path. I mean, people talk about it and they talk about how that's not our path. But what is that path? I have never figured out because I always hear like this that there's selection now what it is on the outside. But what is the path of this Siddha-pranali? How does it work? And how is it different?
Well, I don't have Siddha-pranali, and I haven't really, I can't really comment on it in that sense then, but Siddha-pranali means Ekadas Bhav. It means 11 moods, as we mentioned earlier, and someone sits down and they forcibly, as Jiva Goswami describes in Bhakti Sandarbha, they're forcibly trying to push this onto their mind. It's not a bad thing. It's just one, but it's not sabhaviki. Sabhaviki Shraddha is something which naturally arises. And the holy name is sabhaviki. The holy name is natural. But this other system, I think he called it Balat Puda, where you, excuse me, I'm sorry, where someone's forcibly trying to force the mind to do this or that. And we all speak to, when we're preaching to people, we tell them, that you sit down and you try to meditate, Prabhu. We see many people, every time I go to temples, Hare Krishna temples, you always see some guy in the corner is sitting in a Padmasana thing, and they're trying to meditate, and that's cool. They're doing it at the Hare Krishna temple. That's nice. But that's not something they learned in Bhagavatam class. That's not something that they learned from Srila Prabhupada. And we tell them that it's very, very difficult to control the mind. Arjuna tells Krishna that it's easy to control the wind. But when we're chanting the holy name as a connection to a person that I know, then that's a natural thing. And the mind can be controlled. And especially when we associate with devotees on a regular basis in a loving way. And we just follow Prabhupada's system. It works. Thank you. Is that okay?
A little bit. I mean, I would like to hear more, but anyways, this is satisfying anyway. I'm not going to go on that path, but just wanted to hear like, is any disciple who goes in that line, is he given like a specific name, which he is already told like what he will be in the future, or is it like he's given a general template?
These 11 different items are the dress that you have, your name. You are Bhuta Manjari, is the name I said. And you wear a black, sorry, with skulls around your neck or something. I don't know. You have a particular husband, you have a particular village, you have a particular Saki that you serve. There's 11 different items that someone meditates on. And that's a system. It's a nice system. You're sitting down and you're thinking, using the mind to think of those things. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinod's point is that if it's not natural, if it's just forced upon that person, then it may be some kalpana. It may just be complete speculation. Certainly, I would say it's better to think about that than to sit and think about Ronald McDonald, or Coca-Cola, Hare Krishna. Of course, it's much better. It's not that it's a bad thing, it's a good thing. But the path that we have is a topmost path. This is the path that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks about in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Gaunitai Prabhu was sharing that verse about. This is the path of the holy name. But some people don't really have so much faith in that. And therefore, they think I have to. If I can remember, we spoke to us about this for so long. He said that, yeah, Gurudev gave me the holy name, but I also, it's not enough. I need second initiation. And unless I have second initiation, the holy name's not going to really give me everything. Or then they get second initiation. No, I need to take sannyas also. Or I need to become a Babaji. Or I need to live at Radhakund. Or I need to do this external thing or that external thing. And they have so many things. And they're not really taking shelter of the holy name. As Bhakti-Vigyanam Maharaj commented in this lecture I was listening to recently, he said so nicely, he said, and don't think that this is something, you know, for tomorrow or next week or later on. He said, why not now? When we sit down and chant, well, why don't I get perfection now? It's not that maybe in next lifetime or later in this lifetime, I'll realize my Swarup. Why not right now? From the Holy, that our intensity should be like that. I really appreciated that.
Thank you, Prabhu. Really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you,
And I look
Prabhuji.
for I eagerly look forward to the next class where you're gonna share more about your faith and your relationship with the holy name.
Hare Krishna. I'm a great
By the way,
pretender.
Prabhu, thank you, Prabhu. By the way, another update, Prabhu. His Grace Jaigor Prabhu kicked me out of New York. I'm back in Michigan.
Oh my God, that's cool.
I would never
I
kick him out.
I didn't have enough faith in the holy name, and so
I'll tell you. I'll tell you a secret that's really not sure at all. But we may come and visit you and avoid Jaigor. Jaigor's going to India. It looks like there's a possibility. It's not sure. If Ujjwala Rasika gives her blessings and some others, we may come to America. No,
Oh
it would
wow,
have
Jai.
there's some discussion about
We may
right.
we may be able to pull Jaguar back to US just for your visit.
You just don't tell him about it until after we're in America and he's.
Sure, Prabhuji, sure.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. There's a few comments here also. Ujjwala Rasika comments, thank you so much for not budging a bit from the potency of the holy name. Holy name is everything. Sambandha to Sri Guru, Sambandha, I think she meant. Sambandha to Sri Guru is the most essential door to be opened before I perceive anything real in bhakti. Sadhu, sadhu. And she's one more comment from her, chanting the holy name in connection with the person I know and depend upon. Thank you.
May I?
Yeah, of course.
Actually, nicely connect with Ujjwala Rasaga's last comment about Sambandha to Guru. Because what I've heard, and it was really satisfying, about the.
Just a second. Siddha, can you hear Leela Purushottam Prabhu? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good.
About the original conception of Siddha-pranali is that what it really meant to explain to follow was your inner revelation of the svarupas of the whole parampara, actually. Like you knew, and your pranali based on that knowledge. And then if you take a sequence and you arrive all the way to your guru, and then fully realize to the full degree your sambandha with the Siddha Deha of your guru, then that's what originally the Siddha-pranali system actually is about and is meant to be about. They just twist it all around and started with the disciple instead of the other side of the chain.
Well, that's really nicely put. Thanks for sharing it. Yeah, if you see their system, it's all about service. Our system's also all about service. It's just they're doing it in a little different way. They're not completely depending on the holy name. Krishna, could you have something you want to share?
Yes.
Can I put the camera on you?
You really have to. I was just.
It's easier for devotees to understand what you're saying, to see your lips moving too. Speak real loud.
I was marking the last sentence in one of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's things that you read out. It was how these things are revealed naturally within the heart that sincerely seeks service. And this is why I wanted to mention that, because what is the difference? I don't see any difference between what Srila Prabhupada gave to us for the meaning of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Please, Mother Hara, please Krishna, please engage me in your service. What is the difference between that and the heart sincerely seeking service, and then these things naturally get revealed? And I was just thinking that this external path, I mean, please correct me, I'm checking this understanding, is external path seems to just
Loudly.
be external because it's not coming from your heart, it's given to you by someone else, your guru, but it's given to you by someone else. It's external to you.
Right. It's not something which is just arisen on its own accord, sabhaviki,
Yeah.
but it's balaputa, I think is what it was. I can't remember. But it's something which you forcibly are trying to do. And therefore, we say external, as Krishna Kun likes to comment sometimes, that we say the bahirmukh and the antarmukh. External is really not a very good way to put it sometimes. It's just something, the Bahiranga Karn, Mahaprabhu's external purpose. It's external because his Antaranga Karn, his internal purpose, is for him. Yeah. And Bahiranga is for someone else. But external sounds like, that's really shallow. Yeah, less important. And they're both important. They're both very significant. Okay.
Like in that regard to that discussion, it was also from the same letter of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati that he so nicely specified the role of the guru in the whole matter, that he's there to confirm, to help, not to reveal like out of black, like, oh, you're this and that, but you may come and Gurudev, I came to these revelations. Can I rest upon it? What do I do with that revelation? And that's the role of the guru in that. I really like.
And that's what Hari Bhakti Vilas says too. It says in the first Vilas that if the disciple has some amazing vision or realization, they shouldn't speak about it to others, but they should reveal it to Guru and have it confirmed. That's Hari Bhakti Vilas. That is our process. The chanting of the holy name, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama. This is our Gaudiya process. We should have firm faith in it. All I need is the holy name. Okay? So we'll go ahead and stop there. So next week, I think we should be on, okay, for next week, right, Krishna Kun?
Yeah, I believe.
Okay. Ujjwala Rasiga makes another comment, and then Siddha-Hari. Ujjwala Rasiga, a doctor may know the anatomy, but certainly has no good gut feeling to start surgery because he or she doesn't know the practicalities of surgery. That doctor would not even operate because it's surely going to be a disaster. Same with the mind that is not purified, but artificially thinking of higher leelas and thinking they are in a safe place. It's an enthusiastic, entertaining surgery. Oh my God. That sounds really scary. On the mind with no surgical knowledge, and we know what the result can be. All right. Coming from a doctor.
Sounds realized.
Thank you so much, Ujjwala. We missed your association, Ujjwala Rasiga. Great comments from you today and from all the devotees. Thank you all very much. Okay. What did you do with Prataparudra, Harichandra Prabhu? I saw him here earlier. Did you lock him up in a room or something? I can't hear you. You're muted. You're muted.
Now, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Hare Krishna. No, I didn't know how I was Prataparudra in start.
Oh, I can't tell the two apart of you guys yet. I'm sorry. I just said Prataparudra.
Identical twins is the answer.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry, it was my mistake. I'm very happy because this class was answer on my question I sent you 2 days ago.
You wrote me a question, and I want to write back and say some things about that. I have some specifics, but you don't know. Oh, all the things on my plate right now. It's been really, really intense for me the last few days. It'll get better in a few more days. I mean, it's good questions, and I was really happy that you wrote those to me. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And this meeting was about holy name, and I was really nourishing, really perfect answers for all from everybody. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Just have firm faith in the holy name. That's all that's required. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo, Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha, Kripa Sindhu Bheva Cha, Patitanam Pavane Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. And now, for a little extra something, here is what we see in front of us in the room. Whoops.
Jai Radhe Shyam, Jai Chana Balti Subhadra, Jai Gaur Nitai.
See here.
And
Giriraj and Brinda Devi.
Haridas
Anytime.
Thakur should be
Haridas
there.
Thakur should be there also. Okay, he's there somewhere. There he is. And Prabhupada's over there. And that's Krishna Kund over there. And there's the Pujari. It's not how he dresses when he does puja. Okay. Panchakalpatarubhishcha kripa sindhu bheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Nandakoti Vaishnava Brinda ki.